Amelia is a pretty woman who enjoys living her cozy life working as a remote wildlife journalist and dog sitter in her free time. Her dream is to have her column in the magazine she works for, and her opportunity has finally arrived. She works hard on her articles about animals, and her last work was so good that it made people cry. What's even more impressive is that she writes about those animals without ever seeing them, with only her research and passion. For that reason, in a meeting, she tells her boss Madeline that she's prepared to write her column. Instead of giving her the column right away, Madeline wants to test Amelia first. She knows how the introspective girl enjoys working in the comfort of her home, not having to interact with anyone. She replies that there is a big piece of news that might interest Amelia about baby manatees being released into the sea in Puerto Rico. It's a huge opportunity for Amelia. The only issue is that she would have to go to Puerto Rico to write about it. Amelia tries to give excuses as to why she can't go to Puerto Rico, but Madeline reminds her that it's the magazine's centennial issue, and if she does a good job in the article, she will have her column. With no excuses left to give and an ultimatum, Amelia starts packing her bags. She goes to a small paradise island in Puerto Rico and immediately realizes that she's not wearing appropriate clothes for the tropical weather. She calls Brad, her photographer, and he informs her that he won't be able to make it because he's sick. Amelia is desperate because she doesn't want to be alone in a place she doesn't know anyone. She has never even left her country before. A guide appears at the airport to take her to the lodging she'll be staying in. His name's Timothy and he's American too. Not that knowing that makes Amelia less nervous. Timothy tells her that he visited Puerto Rico on a trip and decided to stay there for good. It's such a beautiful place with such a rich culture that he instantly fell in love. He comments that maybe the same will happen to Amelia, but she thinks it's doubtful. She doesn't like adventures or exploring different cultures. She is comfortable with her cozy apartment and boring life. They arrive at the lodging and it's a big house right in front of the beach. It's a relaxing place with not a lot of people around, and the turquoise ocean is almost a private swimming pool for the guests. Amelia doesn't notice any of that. She's worried about the Wi-Fi and where the best place for her to work is. The owner of the lodging, a nice lady called Valeria, tells her that she can book many cool activities such as snorkeling or kayaking, and Amelia briskly informs her that she isn't interested in any of those. She only wants to work. She impolitely dismisses Valeria as if she's another piece of furniture and organizes the room to her tastes. Then, she goes out on the beach, wearing a long-sleeved shirt and linen pants, to take some pictures for her article. The day is beautiful, sunny, and very hot. Amelia is at the beach taking pictures when she accidentally takes pictures of a photographer. The man approaches and introduces himself as Louis. He asks to see the picture Amelia took of him, and when she shows it to him, he gives her pointers on how to photograph. He also politely tells her that his wife sells clothes that might be more comfortable for her to wear on a sunny island. Amelia chuckles but refuses the offer by saying that she's only staying for a few days. When she's back at the lodging, she starts writing her article and looking at the pictures she took. In one of the pictures, she sees a handsome man whom she hadn't noticed at the beach. He has curly black hair and dark eyes, and in the picture, he's squinting because of the sunlight. Amelia is so enchanted with him that she accidentally bumps into her coffee cup and breaks a vase. She apologizes for the flowers in the vase that she broke, and while she's trying to pick the flowers up, a man appears offering his help. When Amelia looks at him, she's speechless for a moment because it's the same man she'd been admiring in her picture. The man is Fernando, and he's a conservationist born and raised in Puerto Rico. He loves nature, the beach, and living on a small island away from everything. He playfully tells Amelia that the vase she broke was from Amazon, and she misunderstands that it came from the Amazon forest. Fernando jokes that she should try to glue the vase with super glue to keep its soul safe inside. Amelia has no idea he's joking and desperately tries to fix the vase. As quickly as he appeared, when Amelia looked for him to ask for super glue, he was gone. In his place is Valeria, and she informs Amelia that the vase isn't important, and that she just bought it from Amazon. Amelia finally figures out that the man had been messing with her and gets upset. Later on, she goes to the conservation center for the first time and meets Fernando again. They banter a little before she finds out that he's the head of the conservation center and will be working closely with her. She tries to interview him, but Fernando brushes her off because he has something else to do. A manatee was caught in a net and needed his help to get it off. Fernando leaves her speaking to herself in the center, and Amelia is left hanging. She can't believe her luck. First, she leaves her home to go to a completely different place to work. Then, Brad gets sick and can't come to help her out. Now, Fernando is making her life more difficult than it has to be. She's about to blow a fuse. Back at the lodgings, she meets Louis again. He lends her a camera and asks her again if she's sure she doesn't want to check out his wife's clothes. Amelia repeats that she isn't staying there for long, so there's no need for new clothes. With her new camera in her hands, Amelia's humor improves. Never would she have imagined that someone would lend her a camera without even knowing her. It's totally out of her reality. At the conservation center, Fernando isn't happy about Amelia's presence on the island, mainly because he wasn't informed of her visit. Amelia also wonders who called her there to do the article on manatees, because it wasn't Fernando. Turns out it was Valeria who invited Amelia's magazine there to help Fernando and the center out. They need more funding to continue to help animals that are struggling in nature, and Valeria thought it would be a good idea to invite some journalists there. She wants him to keep pursuing his dream and to be happy again. Unbeknownst to Valeria and Timothy, Fernando overhears their conversation and decides to give Amelia a shot. He goes after her in her bedroom and tells her that they would start working early the next morning. Amelia's spirits lift when he offers her the chance to complete her job successfully. It was all she needed. The following morning, Amelia wakes up late and Fernando has to go to her bedroom to grab her. He is even nice enough to bring her a cup of coffee to start the morning well. Amelia quickly gets ready for the day while Fernando waits. She has the habit of turning on music loudly to get dressed, and that startles not only Fernando, but the other citizens that are taking their morning stroll. Once again, Amelia wears formal clothes to go to the beach, something that Fernando finds strange. Instead of taking Amelia to see the ocean and the manatees, Fernando drops a bunch of vegetables in front of her and tells her to help him prepare the food for the animals. Amelia is upset that she would have to do such a menial job, but Fernando insists. She gets upset and feels demeaned. When Fernando helps her chop the vegetables, she changes her mind and finds it fun. Despite his first impression, Fernando is a cool guy. He's only protective of his conservation center and was caught off guard by Amelia's presence. Fernando has to leave for some time, so Amelia finishes chopping all the vegetables by herself. She's quite satisfied with her job in the end because not only she did do something useful, but she also wrote some important information for her article. After the food is ready, Fernando appears again and takes Amelia to meet the manatees. She has to change her pretty formal clothes, though otherwise she could get wet. Fernando keeps trying to push Amelia's buttons, to try and make her take her eyes off her research for a second and enjoy the nature she loves writing about. Amelia pushes back and refuses to leave her comfort zone. Fernando even offers for her to see where the manatees will be dropped off in the ocean. But when she finds out that they will need to use kayaks to arrive at the place, she refuses to go. She tells him that she will read about it in one of the books she brought about manatees. For Fernando, a man that is so in love with nature that he works helping to conserve it, Amelia is annoying. It makes no sense to him that she writes about nature and isn't willing to explore it the way it needs to be. He insists she comes with him and Amelia ends up accepting when he questions her professionalism. Facing her fears, she goes kayaking in the ocean and Fernando even convinces her to go snorkeling. She can't bring her notebook with her to the ocean, so for the first time since she got there, she leaves it behind. Fernando makes fun of Amelia and her fear, but she doesn't feel offended. She laughs with him at her ridiculous fear when she is a wildlife writer. Together they swim and see the coral under the transparent sea, and Amelia has lots of fun. When they return, for a moment Amelia is enchanted by Fernando. When he opens his wetsuit, she almost drools, staring at him. Fernando doesn't notice it. When the excitement from snorkeling passes, Amelia remembers her notebook and starts asking questions to Fernando again. He doesn't care about her article, though. He wants her to concentrate on the present. He suggests another place and Amelia goes with him without hesitation. Her previous fear is lost, and she's looking forward to seeing what Fernando has to show. They go hiking in a rainforest and there they have time to talk more about themselves. Amelia asks what brought him to Puerto Rico and why he decided he wanted to work as a conservationist. Fernando explains that he used to reside in California, but after a hurricane destroyed so much of the island, he decided to come back to help Valeria out. For him, there's no better place to be than there. In turn, Fernando is surprised by Amelia's knowledge of plants and nature. He thought that because she was a journalist and so afraid of everything, she wouldn't know anything. He's mistaken. Despite her fear and her preference for staying at home, Amelia truly loves nature. Her favorites are flowers, and she knows everything about them. Her only issue is that she used to look at nature through books and the internet. Now she has the opportunity to truly experience what she loves to study. On their way back to the lodgings, Fernando notices that Amelia isn't writing in her notebook like before. She's enjoying the ride and watching the beauty of the places they are passing through. Her peaceful expression is a complete contrast to her anxious expression when she had just arrived. After that first day, Fernando loses his previous notion of Amelia being a stuck-up journalist. He admires her when she is leaving to go to her room, and even Valeria notices his starry-eyed look at her. Later on, Fernando is taking a walk on the beach with Louis and he confesses that Amelia helped him remember the dream he had of expanding the conservation center. He wanted the world to know about their work on the island and how important it is to preserve its natural habitat. Louis reminds him that it's also important to take care of his love life and that Amelia could be a good candidate for him to date. Unbeknown to both of them, they are very similar in the romantic department. Amelia also loves her job and research, and her dream is to have her column one day. Fernando dreams of expanding his operation in Puerto Rico and getting more funding. In the pursuit of their dream careers, they forgot along the way to find someone to share their happiness and accomplishments with. They are lonely and Louis thinks that Amelia might be Fernando's chance of having some love in his life. Back at the lodging, Amelia looks like a different person. She's not wearing her formal chic clothes anymore, and when Valeria talks to her, she's open and talkative. She mentions that she enjoyed the day and that Fernando is a great guide. Valeria tries to push for more information, but Amelia quickly changes subjects to talk about Timothy and Valeria. Their love life is quite similar to Fernando and Amelia's. Timothy was an uptight businessman who fell in love with Valeria and life on the island. While talking to Valeria, Amelia exchanges messages with Fernando and gets excited for the next day. She can't wait to see what kind of adventures he will come up with. The next morning, Valeria wakes up early to watch the sun rising. She enjoys her morning in peaceful silence, hearing only the sounds of the waves and the birds singing. Fernando watches her from afar, but he receives a call about one of the manatees and leaves without talking to her. Amelia thinks she has been stood up and calls him, but he doesn't answer her. Fernando is upset because one of the manatees is sick, so they can't be released into the ocean as they had planned. He is beating himself up because he had been distracted by Amelia and hadn't noticed that something was wrong. He's also ashamed because she might not be able to get her article since there's no date set for the manatees to be released. For that reason, he plans on avoiding Amelia until he has a plan. Louis comes to his rescue and tells him that he will help distract Amelia while Fernando takes care of the manatees. What he doesn't expect is for Amelia to get worried about him and decide to go to the center to talk to him. There she meets Fernando's assistant, and the girl informs her that Fernando is probably upset because the manatees can't be released that day. Amelia freaks out because her article is for the next day and she doesn't have the main subject, which is the manatees' release. She goes back to the lodgings and tries to think about a new subject to write about. Louis appears and talks Amelia into finding a distraction to relax her mind. Maybe that way she will know what to do and have some inspiration. He takes her to his wife's store and Amelia gets a makeover with island fashion. She has fun, but she still wants to go back to her article. Louis insists again that they do something else, and Amelia denies it. She tells him that she immediately needs to talk to Fernando about the release, and Louis lets slip that the release is happening the next day. It's a lie and there's no assurance that the manatees will be well enough for them to be released. Amelia doesn't know that. Meanwhile, Fernando is chilling at the beach. He's thinking hard about what he can do with the manatees so he doesn't delay Amelia's article. Many people are counting on the article, including the center. Louis leaves him a message explaining the situation with Amelia and that he has to figure out a way to release the animals the next day. Amelia's boss calls her to inform her that her article will be on the front page of the magazine. It's all Amelia ever wanted, the right acknowledgement for her work and the opportunity for her to have her column if it all works out. On the other hand, it puts a lot of pressure on her to make the article as well as she can to not disappoint Madeline. Later that day, Valeria suggests Amelia goes into town to have some fun. Amelia decides it's a good idea and that she deserves it after working so hard. She puts on one of her new dresses and goes around town taking pictures of anything she finds interesting or beautiful. She even sits with an old man to play dominoes and has lots of fun. Without her noticing, Fernando approaches her and watches her playing in silence. When the game is over, Fernando makes himself known to Amelia. She is a little upset with him because he didn't call her to let her know what was going on. Fernando apologizes, and she happily accepts it, saying that the release has to happen the next day because her article is going to be on the front page. Fernando almost faints. The weight on his shoulders has just gotten heavier. Amelia is so excited and happy that he can't tell her the truth, that he doesn't know if the manatees will be well enough to be released the next day. With nothing else to do but worry, he invites Amelia to dance. She's terrible, but with patience, Fernando teaches her how to move. Their bodies are really close and moving together. Amelia's brain starts getting foggy because Fernando is very attractive and it's been some time since she has dated someone. At the end of the song, Fernando takes her on a boat to the ocean to see the bioluminescent bay. It's very romantic. The moon is bright in the clear sky and the lights in the ocean create a cozy atmosphere. Amelia is amazed by so much beauty and wonders how much time she wasted reading books instead of looking at the real thing. She's grateful to Fernando for giving her the opportunity of facing her fears and leaving her comfort zone. When they leave the boat, it starts raining and they have to take shelter in Amelia's room. Fernando leaves to go to the kitchen to make some food for them while Amelia changes her outfit and puts on some makeup. Feeling pretty and excited, she meets Fernando in the kitchen. Fernando is positively surprised at her change and compliments her. They make dinner together and have a very romantic dinner under candlelight. Fernando tells her that he read her articles and says that she's an amazing writer. He wonders what her favorite place in the world is since she has been to so many, and Amelia explains that she has never been anywhere that she wrote about. Fernando is surprised because he couldn't notice in her articles, and she explains that she's just busy with work to travel. They get to know each other better after that. Fernando tells her that his parents passed away when he was young and that they founded the center. After they passed, he felt it was his duty to go back and help out. Now, it has become his home. When the dinner is over and Amelia is leaving, Fernando almost tells her about the manatees and the possibility that they won't be released. He gets scared of her reaction and ends up promising that it will work out. Amelia has no clue that her work is in jeopardy. Feeling bad, Fernando goes after Valeria to vent. She advises him to tell Amelia the truth. Meanwhile, Amelia is on cloud nine. Her heart is almost jumping out of her chest in excitement with Fernando. Madeline calls her again and angrily berates Amelia because she found out that Brad isn't there with her, and she didn't inform her. Madeline gives her an ultimatum. She has to deliver her article the next day by the end of the day, and the story has to be amazing and surprising to her. If she doesn't, Madeline won't trust her again to write big articles, and she can say goodbye to her column. Amelia deflates like a balloon. Everything was going so well. To make things worse, Fernando decides better late than never, and he's ready to confess to her that the manatees might not be ready to be released tomorrow. Amelia doesn't let him speak because she thinks he's going to confess his feelings for her. She informs him that they need to keep their relationship professional and that she can't afford to be distracted. She closes the door in Fernando's face. As for him, he has no idea what to do after a rejection like that. The next day, Amelia wakes up bright and early. Wearing her formal clothes again, she stomps towards the center, determined to see the manatees leaving. When she gets there, though, she overhears Fernando's assistant telling him that they weren't feeling well that day again, that the release will have to be delayed for at least another month. Amelia's jaw drops to the floor. She can't believe that is happening to her. She watches her dreams crumbling right in front of her. When she's leaving, she makes noise and Fernando notices her there. He runs after her, but she locks herself up in her bedroom. Through the door, Fernando apologizes and explains that the manatees aren't ready to go yet. Amelia is still in shock. She's really sad and frustrated that it all happened in a matter of hours. Her dreams for her column and the article she promised Madeline to go down the drain. As for Fernando, he feels really bad that she won't be able to finish her work and that she is angry with him. He blames himself for not telling the truth to her, but in the end, nature is unpredictable and they have to think about the manatee's safety. He tries to think of a solution while he broods on the beach, but he can't think of anything. The saddest part is that he liked Amelia and he had hopes that they could date. She's leaving now and he won't have another chance with her. Amelia angrily packs her bags and gets ready to leave. Madeline calls her again and she has to give the bad news. Madeline is so angry at Amelia that she almost cries during their call. She thinks she will probably lose her job when she gets back, even though it wasn't her fault that the manatees weren't ready. Amelia vents to Valeria about the whole situation with Fernando and the article, and Valeria tries to explain that Fernando was just afraid of disappointing her. She also gives sound advice by saying that some things happen for a reason and that sometimes we have to leave our comfort zone and explore the world to understand ourselves better. Valeria's speech gives Amelia an idea. She hugs and thanks the woman, then runs back to her room to call Madeline. She begs for another chance and tells her that she has an idea. She stays up all night writing an article about life on the island and how all lives are important to be protected there. Not only manatees but all animals, plants, and people need to be protected. Her article is a success. The same day, Fernando receives a proposal for a sponsorship of the center, all because of Amelia's writing. When she finds out that she's on the front page and it's a huge success, she starts dancing around her room in pure happiness. Madeline calls her and tells her that because of her great work, she would get her column. She would have to travel to Greece to search for sea turtles, though, and Madeline doesn't hesitate to say yes this time. She's excited to explore more of the world and discover new wonderful things. She also decides to postpone her return to New York to stay in Puerto Rico a little longer. She goes after Fernando with the good news and he gifts her with the same vase she broke on her first day there. Amelia thanks him and admits that it was thanks to him that she was able to write that article. He made her see a whole new world. Fernando says that she also helped her open his mind because he had been on the same wavelength for far too long. They confess to each other that they want to experience more adventures together. With the sounds of waves and the wind in the background, Fernando and Amelia finally kiss. Their future is uncertain. Amelia doesn't know where she will go on her next adventures, but one thing they both know for sure: they want to experience it together.